So today I want to talk about this super cool tube mixer that I have restored / modified. So this is the Magnecord PT6-P, which is a microphone mixer with an external power supply that has a built-in speaker, like a 4-inch speaker or something, looks like. And that's powered by a single 6V6, and it's got a DC filament supply that gets run up through this big old cable to this big old socket here on the side that transports the B+, the DC filament for all the preamp tubes, and also the AC 6 volts for the VU meter lamp, as well as the unbalanced line level that feeds the built-in speaker. And we'll take a listen to that speaker later. But so, these are, to just look up the schematic, these are not super impressive. This was what we call low-level microphone mixing, where you would mix several microphones of low impedance on the order of 50 to 150 ohms, mix those signals together, and all of that would feed one microphone input transformer, low impedance to high impedance for the grid of the preamp tube. So unluckily for me, when I got this, somebody had already taken the input transformer and the output transformer and a lot of the other tube sockets and the some parts of the preamp. So I felt free to just sort of build my own thing inside of it. So I've converted this from low-level mixing to high-level mixing, and so each channel now has its own input transformer and its own tube, a 12AX7. I think I might actually have a 12AT7s in that spot because I had a bunch of those. But anyway, what each one gets, it's 12AX7 and its input transformer, and then gets mixed after that. So that'd be the high-level mixing I'm talking about. I also added push-pull potentiometers for high-pass filter on each channel. And then all of those feed another mixing tube that amplifies again before it gets sent to the master volume control. And even more than that, I added these unbalanced high Z inputs. So each channel has an XLR input, which we're looking at here, channels 1, 2, and 3. That feeds the first input transformer for each of them. And then I've got 3 inputs here that are unbalanced high Z, and that breaks the input from the mic input. So we're not listening to the mic input of this yet. That's going through a separate mic pre. I've got it set up for this drum machine, so I'm going to show you what those high Z sounds like being fed by a drum machine. So we'll be mixing in here, and I'll demonstrate this. This is a selectable solo output that feeds this unbalanced and balanced output over here on the side. So what we're going to hear in a second is the balanced output fed from the master volume control that's going into a little bit of compression into the mixer that you're hearing my voice mixed in with. And I may turn off my vocal mic here so you can just focus on the sounds of the drum machine. But let's get that going. So what, I want to talk about this little selector switch real quick. So I had an extra tube socket after I gave each one of these its own mic pre and a mixing stage and a line output driver that drives the output transformer that feeds the, let's see where we got that. All right, so let me talk about the outputs for a second. So we've got our 3 channels of XLR inputs. We also have here at the top, we've been listening to 3 1/4-inch inputs that breaks the signal from the XLR transformers, right, from the secondary of the mic transformers. So these get inserted, and we can put in guitar level to line level. I've been attenuating those outputs that are feeding the individual channels here a little bit from the MPC. So, and then up here, I added this as well. This is just a line level input to the mixing stage of all of these. So I'm sending the left channel of the MPC with the guitar sample to that line level. And everything else, as we were hearing, is going to its own channel. Each channel has a high-pass filter, and most of the tasty bits of the hi-hat and the snare are above that high-pass filter, so I've engaged that. The kick, leave all those lows in there. The master gain controls over here, so we could back that off a little bit and kind of drive. We are running into the compressor that I've got over here, so oh yeah, there's another feature that I added. We've got here we have a VU indicator, attenuator, and a switch to just get the VU out of the circuit. So off, regular scale, and then we kind of zoom in from there. So if we get our signals back and get pretty hot. As we twist the knob this way, the needle jumps higher. This is the standard setting for what it was originally at least, which, remember, was feeding a recording head, not a line level on your digital recording interface. All the same, what we're listening to on the output, that reminds me what I was about to get back to. So let's listen to and talk about the output section. So, yeah, let's look at the outputs of this thing. Go ahead and scoot that way. There we go. So, we got our 3 XLR inputs and our 3 1/4-inch inputs, and 1 extra 1/4-inch line level input that gets fed to the mixing stage after each microphone preamp tube. But then the outputs we have here are full line level output. And right between this XLR and this XLR are a couple of attenuating resistors that gives us a nice pad. And so we're listening to this padded, 6 to 10 dB. I can't remember off the top, but so we're already attenuating it a little bit. And then that's going into the compressor and everything that we've been hearing with that drum machine has been getting a couple of dB of compression. We also have an unbalanced line level output. This output section that I used is driven by a 12AU7, and it's a cathode follower line level output that drives this 1/4 inch output and an output transformer that feeds these two XLR hookups. This one is full level, this one is attenuated. And then this output over here is fed by that selector knob right here. So this is a selectable solo function on this thing. How useful is it? You know, that's yet to be seen. I've recorded a couple of things with it where I used that output, but largely if I'm using something like this, I want to mix it to mono. You know what I mean? But here I want to demonstrate that. So I've got that brought up on a different channel. So first things first, let me get that beat back. Let's get a little, right? Excellent. Cool. Super cool. So I'm going to mute that now, and I'm going to start selecting the individual channels over here. That's feeding its own channel. Actually, let me set that back where it was. Got an attenuator on the DI. That'll do great. Okay, so now we've selected the kick channel, right? Selected the snare channel. Got pretty darn good isolation between those tracks. What I don't have right now is a setting that listens to the line or the full mix, which I could imagine both of those being useful. Right now, this setting ties that output to ground and essentially just mutes it. But that's the selectable line level output solo, right? And then we've got our beep in the main line output. So what else? Oh yeah, the final sort of fun thing about this, I think, one of the cool things about this is the built-in tiny speaker. This one happened to be in great shape. And so what I'd like to do, I'm going to turn down the line level that we've been listening to. I'm going to step over here and grab the trusty SM57. And oh yeah, okay, before we're done, right? Let's listen to, I'm going to turn off my microphone. Turn up the drum beat in the 57. just to confirm that this is the 57. Here it is up to my face. It's a shocking amount of bass out of such a tiny speaker, in my opinion. And there's the line level again. All right, so now one more thing that I do want to demonstrate is what those microphone preamps sound like, right? So right now I'm gonna send all of those instruments back to the line level just for kicks. Just so they can still stay in there. I'm going to take this SM7 that I've been talking into. I'm going to put it into one of these mic channels. Right, yes. Hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Ba-ba-dee-ba-dap-down. Ba-da-ba-dee-da-dee-down. Ba-ba-dee-dee-down. Ba-ba-dee-ba-da-da-dee-day. Ba-ba-dee-da-da-bee-bam-bee-da-dam. Ba-ba-dee-bee-bam-bee-dam-bam. Way ba-ba-dee-dum. Way ba-ba-dee-da-dum. Ba-ba-dee-ba-da-dee-da-dee-da-dum. Ba-ba-dee-ba-da-dum. Ba-ba-dee-da-day. Ba-ba-dee-ba-dum-bum-ba-da. Hey, ba-ba-dee-ba-dum-bum. Ba-ba-dee-da-bum-ba-dee-da-dum. Ba-ba. Hey, ba-ba-dee-ba-da-dum. Ba-ba-dee-ba-da-ba-dee-ba-bum. Ba-ba-dee-ba-dee-dum. Hey, ba-ba-dee-ba-da-dum, ba-ba-dee-da-dee-dum, bum, ba-ba-dee-bum, ba-ba-dee-ba-dee-bum, ba-ba-dee-bum, ba-ba-dee-bee-bum. Hey, ba-ba-dee-ba. Hey, ba-ba-dee-ba-da-dum, ba-dum. Ba-da-ba-wee-ba-bee-da-bum, ba-da-ba-dee-ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da-bum, ba-ba-dee-ba-da-bum-bum-bum, ah-bee-da-bum. Hey, ba-ba-dee-ba-bum. So I've switched over to the selectable line out. And back to the main mix. Back to the main mix. So yeah, how cool is a little thing like this? So, you know, I've been calling it a portable tube console because it's got a lot of the features that I would want in a super basic, super simple tube console. Like these high pass filters, the ability to mix in, you know, line level playback. I've used this on a couple of sessions where I've done like a Tascam handheld that I will feed through an attenuator that I've got here, a transformer and attenuator set or something like that, and record a set that I'll mix, you know, with mics on this mixer, and I've really been happy with the outcome. And so part of me thinks that it would be cool to start building stuff like this from scratch. You know, these are not super sought after you know, because of the whole low level mixing thing that I was talking about. So I wouldn't feel too terrible about modifying something like this. But at the same time, when I look at it, it's put together in such a, you know, a logical way as far as the power supply with, you know, the addition of a 6v6 and a output transformer and a speaker. You know, they've got this cool monitoring system, and you know, the DC filaments, you know, make this thing incredibly quiet. And then, you know, another thing I've done, maybe I'll set it up and do another video here in a second, is use that selectable solo output to give one channel reverb. So, you know, using it as a vocal preamp, you can feed that signal out into, you know, I've fed it into like a Fender style reverb unit, but you could put it into your SP404. In fact, maybe I'll do a separate video where I do both those things, the reverb unit and the SP404, because that's a fun thing to do with something like this, right? You know, take some tracks, feed it through a tube, and then send that signal into something, and then feed it back and capture it. So there's a lot of things you can do with that. All right. Yeah, I think I'm gonna save the effects processing for another video, but yeah, let me end with a question. You know, for those of you who do sort of engineering, recording, and you're into tube preamps and tube consoles and whatever else, what features am I missing? You know, what features, you know, would be cool to add to this, or is there something here that's not useful? Is there, you know, something I'm forgetting about? Because I think this is pretty neat, and something like this is totally doable. I imagine, you know, maybe it would be useful to have line outs on every channel, right? You know, but at a certain point, you know, you can't. At a certain point, you know, are we mixing things together? You know, or is it a box of preamps? You know. Because a box of preamps, you know, I might go about it a different way, I guess. I don't know. But this was just a really cool conversion. I was really excited about it, and I've been using it on some sessions that have been, you know, I feel like turned out really good. And anyway, let's get that drum beat back as I set this thing up for the next thing.